Every Thanksgiving, young Dolph returned to his hometown of Memphis to help deliver turkeys for the homeless and those in need. But before he could do so in 2021, he was shot dead in broad daylight. This is the horrifying final 24 hours of young Dolph, early life. The shooting of young Dolph was nothing new to young Dolph. And to understand the end of life, you need to go back to the very start and understand the world that he inhabited. In the 1980s, the United States was hit with the crack epidemic, a tragedy that particularly affected black neighborhoods. Both of young Dolph's parents were addicts, and there was widespread panic in America about crack babies, where children would become severely damaged by being exposed to cocaine in the womb. Today, we know these effects to be relatively small, but this was the world young Dolph grew up in. In the song Preach, he raps born in the 80s, crack baby. Damn mama, she was in the streets. So guess who raised me? The streets. In the song In My System, he raps, ain't got no brain. Daddy's sperm was full of cocaine, cousin got life. They say he smashed for a whole thing of cocaine. Although young Dolph is a hero in Memphis, he was actually born in Chicago, something his enemies would be quick to point out. Because Dolph's parents were not fit to look after him, his wider family made a decision. One grandmother looked after his sisters in Chicago, while the other grandmother looked after Dolph and his brothers in Memphis. When Dolph was asked to describe Memphis, he said, "It's cool. It's real cool. And it makes you feel like you're in the South. You know you're in the South. It smells good in the air. You have good barbecue, good restaurants around the city. It's a good place. You know what I'm saying? There's certain areas you gotta stay out of, but it's just like everywhere else in the world. You know what I mean?" That being said, in the song Preach, Dolph raps about seeing someone get shot dead when he was 9. Speaking about this event, he said, "Yeah, it was just a growing up in South Memphis thing. It's like, yeah, it's all good and it's cool around, but ain't no telling when some will break out, or when it will happen, or where it will happen. It was just what you were exposed to growing in the city and living in the hood there." Memphis hoods. As a teenager, there were 2 hoods involved in a bitter rivalry, Magnolia and Castalia. In an interview with The Guardian, he said, "Even when leaving school, you either had to go up past the 2 stores and the corner where everything is going on, or walk up this long-ass boring street up the hill to go home. Of course, everyone's grandmamas and parents were like, don't walk up past that corner. But we wanted to go past where the action is. We were in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades, seeing this living hell." And when he was asked how he survived and thrived in Memphis, he explained, "Any negative thoughts, negative thinking, negative people, negative anything, you just push that out your life. You push that out the way and give it no attention, none whatsoever, and focus on nothing but positivity. Focus on taking care of your family and making money, your relationship with God. It's like you don't even have time for negativity. You ain't got time to give it no attention, none of that." And that's what I've been on my whole life. At the same time, Dolph was the oldest of his brothers, and like many elder siblings in broken homes, he felt the urge to step up and start providing for his family. "I've just always wanted the money. I told my grandma a long time ago that I was going to take my mom and dad out the hood. I was a little boy saying that." Dolph's rapping career started later in life when he was around 23 years of age. This was also around the time his grandmother, Ida Mae, passed away. While one chapter in his life was closing, another one was about to begin. In an interview with Rolling Stone, he said, "I started rapping later on in life, around the time I put out my first project, 2008, that's his Paper Route campaign. That's when I started rapping. It was like later on." When asked why he got into music, he said, "I don't know. I just like music. I've always been a big fan of music. Once I grew up and got older in age, it's like when you love to do something, the love for it don't go nowhere. It always gets stronger and stronger, whatever you have love for. My passion for music has just gotten stronger, and I found myself involved in music. Music just sets the tone. It puts you in a different vibe, different mode, different moods. I just like music. You hear music every day. It's something you can't dodge. I don't care what you do. You're going to hear music every day." Memphis's next big thing. Dolph's debut mixtape Paper Route campaign was released in 2009 and did pretty well in Memphis. He clearly embraced the Memphis sound and was particularly inspired by local legend Gucci Mane. The following year, he started Paper Route Empire, an independent record label. He released a bunch of mixtapes on this label and started to steadily grow his name. He also finally got to work with his hero Gucci Mane on the 2013 collaborative mixtape East Atlanta Memphis, and later on in the 2015 tape Felix Brothers. It was these projects that resulted in Dolph expanding beyond Memphis and gaining fans across the U.S. At some point in the early 2010s, Dolph moved to Atlanta to properly focus on his hip-hop career. Young Dolph's success is all the more impressive given that he never actually signed to a label and preferred to be an independent artist. By 2014, Dolph toured many U.S. cities and earned up to $72,000 a week. According to Dolph, the game was set up to where you damn near needed a record label, but now you don't. However, it was turning down a deal that would land him into a lot of trouble and evolved into him being shot in later life and rumored to how he was ultimately killed. When Dolph was coming up, Yo Gotti was arguably the biggest rapper in Memphis at that time, and Gotti wanted to sign Dolph to his record label. Dolph respectfully turned this down because people might then think that he only popped off because of Gotti, and the image Dolph wanted to present is that he is self-made. But clearly, this did not go down well. In February 2016, Dolph seemed to have sneak dissed Gotti on Twitter when he wrote, "Bra went from being my #1 fan and wanting to sign me to being my biggest hater." Dolph's feelings towards Gotti would become less subtle later that month. Up until this point, Gotti had regularly dubbed himself the King of Memphis, so Dolph decided to name his new album King of Memphis. Dolph never publicly said that this was a slight at Gotti, and even downplayed it. And when asked about it by Hot 97, he said, "All my partners king, everybody got some paper, everybody move like I move, and they morals and all of that." However, calling himself the King of Memphis ruffled a few feathers. On the 25th of February, Dolph was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and was due to perform later at a sports event. Dolph was driving in his SUV when a truck pulled up and started shooting. 100 shots were fired at the SUV, and Dolph was clearly targeted with the intention of killing him. Sadly for the shooter, Dolph was completely unscathed. Dolph must have had some fears or suspicions that he might get attacked, as his SUV was covered in bulletproof panels, which managed to sustain the 100 shots. And Dolph even released a song afterward named 100 Shots. Charges were actually brought against Black Youngsta in relation to the shooting, but were later dropped. Dolph had smoothly dodged his enemies that time, but shortly afterward, things would not be so easy. The beef escalates. A month later, Black Youngsta, an artist signed to Gotti's label, spoke angrily about Dolph calling himself the King of Memphis. He said, "Dolph, you a soft. If you got a problem, say you got a problem," followed by, "You ain't even no King of Memphis, he ain't from the city." Youngsta then pulled up in his neighborhood with a gang of other people carrying guns. Thankfully, young Dolph was not there. The beef between young Dolph and Black Youngsta was eventually squashed. Charges were even brought against Youngsta for the shooting in Charlotte, but were dropped at a later date. Young Dolph then took to Instagram and finally took shots at Gotti, primarily for getting someone else to fight his own beef. On Instagram, he wrote, "First thing first, everybody know it's you, ho Gotti. That's sending your artist out to say the lame shit he been saying and doing. I guess you still mad cause I didn't ever sign with your or is you still in your feelings cause you fell out with Gucci Mane and you was mad at me cause I kept rocking with Gucci." Next year, Dolph would release the song Play With Yo B** Titch, a diss track aimed at Yo Gotti. On this track, he rhymes, "You went from my biggest fan to my biggest hater begging me to sign with you, but I had too much paper." Given that the beef was quashed with Black Youngsta, this track came as quite a surprise. Dolph said in an interview that Gotti had been sneak dissing him. He said, his last 2 mixtapes, he's trying to sneak diss Dolph. "It's like you playing. You wanna play? I ain't gonna play how you wanna play. We gonna play how I wanna play. I'm going to expose you. Facts on top of facts." He don't know how to respond, cause there ain't no response. Gotti would acknowledge this song by tweeting, "I'm business partners with Lil Reed and Jay-Z." In the wake of no diss track from Gotti, Dolph turned things up another notch. He released a video for Play With Yo featuring a Yo Gotti lookalike in the video. And as time went on, that seemed to be the end of things. Trouble in LA. In May 2017, he was asked about the status of his beef with Yo Gotti, and he said, "Ain't no status. The song is what it is. That's the end of it. That's a wrap. What you hear is what you get. What you see is what you get. You've got the song, and now it's over with. Everything is in that song, and now it's over with. It's done. So all the playing can cease, all the playing can stop, and ain't no more playing going on or none." In September of that year, it was clear that things weren't over. In fact, things were about to take a really dark turn. That month, Dolph was scheduled to perform at the Mark in Los Angeles and was staying at the nearby Lowe's Hotel in Hollywood.
To our top story tonight, bullets fly near the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Tourists ducking and a rap artist was hit and seriously injured. Tonight, police say an ugly rivalry may be behind that shooting.
Young Dolph was shot and taken to hospital. Police suspected that Yo Gotti was involved.
The LAPD now wants to talk with rapper Yo Gotti following a shooting in front of Lowe's Hotel in Hollywood.
The individual you've mentioned has been possibly identified as being involved in what took place earlier. To what degree, we have no idea.
Corey McClendon, an associate of Gotti's, was charged with attempted murder but later released. When Dolph was shot the first time, he released the song 100 Shots and boasted about his invincibility. This time around, the video for his song Believe Me opened with news footage about his shooting. He was rubbing it in the face of the killers who couldn't kill him, the other side of Dolph. In January 2018, Dolph was asked why he was being attacked and responded, "You gotta ask them. But I ain't a person that lives in fear. You got some people who really worry about that kind of shit. I don't." To add to his cavalier attitude towards death, he released his album that February called Get Shot Every Day. However, these high-profile incidents only painted one side of young Dolph. Since blowing up, Dolph made sure that he never turned his back on Memphis or forgot about where he came from. In 2019, the Ida Mae Foundation was set up, which is a charity named after his grandmother and aimed at helping the less fortunate in Memphis. This was founded by Dolph's Aunt Rita, with young Dolph becoming a figurehead. This foundation would assist in charitable initiatives young Dolph had already been doing in Memphis, such as an annual turkey giveaway to the homeless every Thanksgiving.
I just like doing it, you know what I'm saying? Like putting smiles on people's faces, you know what I mean? Like Thanksgiving for everybody, Christmas for the kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, God been good to me and my team.
He made more positive headlines later that year and had an unlikely feud with Joe Van Gogh coffee shop. Baristas at this cafe were playing some of young Dolph's music in the store, causing some of the more sensitive customers to complain to the higher-ups at the company. These two baristas were fired from their jobs. In retaliation, Dolph gave the two baristas $10K each to keep them on their feet and flew them out to one of his shows in Miami. Later that year, it became clear just how committed young Dolph was to remain an independent artist. He revealed that he turned down a record deal worth $22 million. He posted on Instagram, "This ain't none of that rap, none of that super cap. You get offered $1 million, you gonna sign your life away, your mama life away, daddy life away, every body life away." A few months later, Dolph released Dumb and Dumber, an album he worked on alongside fellow Memphis rapper Key Glock, the family man. By 2020, it was clear that Dolph ain't about that life. Whenever violent situations came at him, he was the victim and never the perpetrator. Any antagonism from Dolph generally came from his words and his music. It's also important to note that by this time, he is a family man, in his 30s, and living a fairly ordinary life. During the pandemic, we got an insight into Dolph's life as a father and a husband. When asked what he was doing during lockdown, he told GQ, "I'm in my daughter's room. I'm in her little castle thing she got. She crawl in, I'm crawling my big ass in that. I'm in their world right now. Everything they like to do, everything they play, I'm all in that world right now. I'm just a big ass kid right now." Also in 2020, young Dolph's wife set up a foundation called Black Men Deserve to Grow Old, which aims at helping families affected by fathers of households dying from violent crime. The foundation was in honor of her brother who passed away, and she had no idea a similar fate was in store for her husband. By this time, Dolph had planned on retiring from rap, but that was mainly so he could focus on his label and support other artists coming up. But, like most rappers when they say they've retired, they end up coming back pretty soon. Apparently his son wanted him to keep rapping, so he released another album called Rich Slave. Dumb and Dumber 2, another mixtape he made with his protege Key Glock, was set to be his last project. He wrote on Instagram, "I hope y'all enjoying the new mixtape. It's my last project putting out. I wasn't gonna tell y'all, but I thought y'all should know I'm done with music. Enjoy, and for reasons outside of his control, this would be young Dolph's last ever project." During this time, Dolph had been in his relationship with his partner for a decade now and announced something really special for 2022. April 2022 was Mia J's birthday, so they planned to get married at a winery somewhere. As part of their wedding, they planned to get Dolph's parents to renew their vows. Dolph's parents got married in his grandmother's living room, but now they would have a proper wedding venue. Jay said, "That's just who he was. If we went out of town, he wanted his parents to go too, to experience the most beautiful parts of life. He wants to take his family places they've never been. He wanted to expose them." On Sunday, November 14th, Dolph sent inspiration photos to the wedding planner. The next day, he headed back to Memphis one last time, Dolph's final hours. Dolph traveled back to Memphis for two reasons. Firstly, it was a difficult time for his family back home because his aunt was battling cancer. And secondly, he was taking part in the annual Thanksgiving turkey giveaway for the Ida Mae Foundation. When he arrived back in his hometown, one of his first stops was to visit West Cancer Center and Research Institute to visit his beloved Aunt Rita. While he was there, he spent time with the staff, took some photos together, and did what would be his last ever interview.
I had several family members to come through here and been patients of this clinic, so I just really wanted to show up and show them my support.
During Dolph's trip back to Memphis, he was more than likely going to stop by one of his favorite food outlets, Makeda's Cookies. In July of that year, young Dolph appeared on their social media after departing the store with some of their freshly baked cookies. They filmed him outside the store, and he was more than complimentary about their food. The video was captioned with, "Young Dolph says every time he comes home, he has to stop by Makeda's Cookies." By November 17th, Dolph had been in Memphis for 2 days on his Thanksgiving trip. On that Wednesday morning, he spent a couple of hours driving through the city in his camouflage Corvette. A fan saw him at a gas station, took a video, and posted it on social media. By the early afternoon, he decided to stop by his beloved Makeda's Cookies, and sadly, this decision to stop by here proved fatal. When he stepped inside the store, a white Mercedes was parked outside. 2 gunmen came charging out, one carrying a semi-automatic rifle and another carrying a pistol. Both of them started firing shots inside the store. After firing multiple bullets inside, they fled the scene and got back into the Mercedes. Both of them were wearing masks and gloves to conceal their identity. Police and emergency services arrived, and at 2:54 p.m., young Dolph was pronounced dead. He was 36 years old. The aftermath. In the hours that followed, the police feared that this shooting could escalate into even more violence, particularly among people who wanted to avenge his death. The citizens of Memphis were asked to stay at home.
Tonight, we strongly encourage everyone to stay home if you do not have to be out.
An incredibly tragic scene was seeing police remove Dolph's Corvette. Makeda's Cookies was then swarmed with family members, friends, and fans. Dolph's Corvette was removed from the scene.
Well, police have finally cleared this scene, but there are family members and fans here tonight. And as you can see behind me, they have boarded up the windows of this business that were damaged or shattered by gunfire. Police are asking for calm as they investigate this murder.
The big question on everyone's mind was why this senseless killing happened. Police had no answer.
This was a shooting that occurred at a cookie shop. And we're just not sure what that motivation was. And it's a little bit too early for us to tell.
The autopsy report revealed that Dolph was shot 22 times and hit in his right back, center back, left arm, left chest, left abdomen, right chin, right neck, right wrist, and right shoulder. This was most certainly a deliberate killing of Dolph, and sadly, they were successful this time around. Young Dolph's death made worldwide news. It was a tragedy for Memphis, but also for the wider hip-hop community. Chance the Rapper tweeted, "God bless Dolph, real independent Memphis rapper born in Chicago. Loved by millions of PPL. Always showed love every time I seen him. This is tragic. God bless his family, man," Quavo wrote. Damn, this one hurt Rip Dolph. And Memphis legend Gucci Mane posted a song on Instagram titled "Long Live Dolph." He raps, "Rip to Dolph, long, long live the legend. From Memphis to the 6th, they felt you in the bricks. The day you died, it broke my heart. A day I won't forget." Finding the culprits. As you can imagine, plenty of rumors circulated, including some fake news. A particularly harmful rumor was that Black Youngstar's grandmother's house was shot up, which turned out to be completely fabricated. On a more positive note, Dolph's friends and family went through with the Thanksgiving turkey giveaway on Friday and made sure that the people who killed Dolph did not manage to cause even more misery. But Memphis police spent most of their Thanksgiving on the hunt for the culprits who caused this crime. Luckily, they found the white Mercedes at the 1100 block of Bradley Street in Memphis, and this was connected to another shooting that happened earlier that month. On November 12th, 2 women were shot by a gunman driving this very car in the city of Covington, which is 40 miles away from Memphis. Finding this car led to the arrest of the first suspect, Cornelia Smith. While all this was happening, Memphis was in mourning, and one comedian, Darian Childs, decided to make some rather distasteful remarks about young Dolph, a 21-year-old comedian, Darian Childs. Shortly after Dolph's death, he wrote, "Many them folks just killed young Dolph. I love Memphis, cuz we so gangsta," alongside laughing emojis. He later wrote, "Maina kuh if yin from Memphis," or "if yin the police just quit trying to solve young Dolph murder." This joke made a lot of people angry. So angry that a few days after making these comments, he was shot dead. In December, Black Youngstar performed his 2016 song Shake Some, which was a diss track aimed at young Dolph. Given the past between Dolph and Black Youngstar and Young Gotti, it wouldn't be unusual to assume that they were involved in the murder of young Dolph. However, there have not been any links made between these individuals and the murder, except for one, which is a bit of a stretch. I'll let you make your mind up on this one. According to AllStarHipHop.com, Cornelia Smith is the cousin of Adria Smith, aka Lil Migo. Migo is signed to Black Youngstar's Heavy Camp label. That being said, the website says that he is allegedly his cousin. It's not something to rule out, but hardly something that will hold up in court either. The second suspect. As the police dug deeper into the case, there looked to be more questions than answers. On January 5th, the police put out an arrest warrant for 23-year-old Justin Johnson with the tagline, "He should be considered armed and dangerous." Interestingly, Johnson is also a rapper, which tempted many people to look into his past in social media. He went by the name Straight Drop, and some interesting images of him went viral. On January 8th, he announced on Instagram that he was turning himself in. He posted, "Turning myself in Monday. I'm innocent. I'll be back sooner than you can blink." Then an image circulated of young Dolph playing at a club, and a person who looks like Johnson was seen behind him. Another image showed him wearing a chain with the letter PRE, which stands for Paper Route Empire, young Dolph's independent label. Straight Drop was never signed to this label. and it's unclear whether he had any relationship with Dolph. Coincidentally, Johnson released a music video for his song Stepped On 5 days after the murder. But things get even more inconvenient for Johnson. Another video, Going Straight In, just so happened to be filmed outside a house at the 1100 block of Bradley Street in Memphis, the same place where the white Mercedes was recovered by police. By January 11th, Johnson had turned himself in. In February of that year, the police noted a person of interest in the crime. Joshua Taylor, a Memphis resident, is not believed to be connected to the crime, but has information in relation to the alibi Johnson gave to police. In April 2022, Johnson was sentenced to prison, but mainly for violating parole. He will spend at least 2 years for not being regularly employed, missing mandatory drug screenings and therapy, failing to seek permission before leaving the jurisdiction, and being arrested. Johnson has also been attacked by inmates in jail for his alleged connection with the murder of young Dolph, a crime he had still not been convicted of. Johnson and Cornelia Smith were believed to be the shooters on the day, but the police are convinced that they were not acting alone. In fact, a year after Dolph's death, a third suspect was indicted. The third suspect, things were getting a bit complicated, so District Attorney Steve Mulroy explained the newfound situation.
Justin Johnson and Cornelia Smith are, we allege, the two shooters. They are the people that are captured on the video that was released publicly a while back, showing the actual shooting.
And as for Hernandez Govan,
the new indictment, the new suspect, Mr. Govan, we allege was the person who put the hit out on young Dolph, who solicited the murder and put into motion the chain of events that led to young Dolph's death.
Interestingly, the indictment is dated June 2021. He had allegedly planned this killing several months in advance. His last known address was at 1100 block of Bradley Street in Memphis, the very same neighborhood where the Mercedes was found, and Justin Johnson filmed one of his rap videos. Frustratingly for those that want answers, the district attorney did not say what the relationship was between these three men, and the question that haunts us all, the motive. Another bizarre coincidence is that Govan was the father of the female rapper Lotta Cash Desto, who was tragically murdered in September 2022. Hernandez Govan wrote on Facebook, "I think I cursed you, Destiny, with my lifestyle. I apologize, baby." Shortly after Govan's indictment, a fourth suspect turned himself in. Jamarcus Johnson turned himself in. And if the surname sounds familiar, that's because Jamarcus is the brother of Justin. And so far, he is the only suspect to plead guilty for his part in this ordeal. On June 9th, 2023, Jamarcus Johnson pleaded guilty to assisting his brother Justin. He agreed to take hold of his phone and car on the day young Dolph was killed to give the impression that his brother was not in Memphis. It's been made clear by his attorney that he had no knowledge or involvement in the murder, but may be called to testify at a trial. And just when you thought there were no more crazy twists and turns left, Joshua Taylor, a person of interest in the trial, was shot dead. Whoever killed young Dolph on that day knew a couple of things about him. The people behind it knew that he would be back in Memphis for the Thanksgiving turkey giveaway. The perpetrators knew that he loved driving his beautiful camouflage Corvette. And lastly, they knew that he couldn't get enough of Makeda's cookies. It was these predictable behavior patterns that led to this truly cold-blooded killing. As of yet, finding out what happened to young Dolph on his fateful trip to Makeda's cookies remains uncertain. One thing for certain is that young Dolph's legacy lives on. Dolph's protege Key Glock continues to shine, and there are countless artists that Dolph's music continues to inspire. Outside of music, the Ida May Foundation continues to help people around Memphis and will undoubtedly carry on their Thanksgiving turkey giveaway. Young Dolph is certainly someone we should be thankful for. Thank you for watching. Click on some of the videos you see in front of you now.